So in this lesson, we're going to look at adding CSS classes to a module so that you can style it using custom CSS. Now, modules come with a lot of different options and you can achieve a lot of different effects by just changing the settings on a module. But the reason that you use a CSS class is when you want to you want to change something on a global scale. So you might want to force all these headings here for these modules to be uppercase, and you might have these modules appear throughout your website multiple times. Now, just say later on down the track you realize that you don't actually want these headings to be uppercase. Instead of going in and editing every different module and then having to remove the uppercase, which can be time consuming, you could just go in and remove that forced uppercase from the CSS file and it would update everywhere. So as always, the best thing to understand what we're going to do is to just go ahead and start doing it. So let's go ahead and let's launch the Beaver Builder page builder. And we can see if we click on this module here, it's a text module and it has a heading, so a H2 heading, and then just some paragraph text. And that's putting that there. Now, let's say we want to make this uppercase. We could write the Zen Life title, and we could save, and that would be uppercase. And again, we could go into here, Wales Greatest Hits, and we could write Wales Greatest Hits, and we could go through, and we would just do this for every heading that we wanted to make uppercase. Now, let's just say we have these three here, and then we have another three on another page, and then another three on another page. That's 9 modules. If we ever wanted to go ahead and not make these uppercase, we would have to edit 9 different modules. Now, the easier way to do this would be to use CSS. So let's go ahead and make these lowercase again. So now these are lowercase. But let's go ahead and edit the module. And in the Advanced tab, you can see we have some CSS selectors, which are IDs and the class. Now, I generally only use the CSS class for styling. ID, I only really use for another built-in Beaver Builder feature where you can click a link on a page and it scrolls to that section. But for this lesson, we're going to focus on just using the CSS class. So building on the idea of forcing these to be uppercase, let's write module headings uppercase. So the CSS class module headings uppercase, and let's click save. And now that CSS class has been applied to this module. Now what we need to do is we actually need to write the CSS which allows that CSS class to make this title uppercase. So there's many different places that you can add CSS. You could go to Tools, and because these modules are going to appear on multiple pages, we want to load this CSS class on all our pages. So we would go to the Global Settings and put it into our Global CSS. So let's just do that for now. So again, I'm not going to go into the specifics on how to write CSS classes because it is sort of something that if you are trying to do this, you probably have an idea of how it works, or there's lots of documentation online. But basically, you want to put a dot and then the CSS class. And then inside that element with this CSS class, we're targeting H2s, which I know this one is, but you might also want to target H3s as well. And we want to make these uppercase. So that's what text transform uppercase. We're saying that the module with this CSS class, any H3s within that module with this CSS class, force them to be uppercase. And let's click save. And already you can see that that's done it. So let's add that CSS class to this module here. So again, Advanced, And in the CSS class field, we'll just paste that. And you can see straight away that's taken effect. And then again, let's click on this one. And let's paste it in here. And again, this will take effect straight away. There it is. Now, the great thing about that is if we wanted to not make these uppercase, instead of clicking and editing that module like I showed you before and then having to retype it, we just go back into our tools, global settings, CSS, and we could literally just remove this line here. And they've gone back to the normal case that they were typed in. So that's the power of CSS classes on modules. Add a CSS class, write your custom CSS, and if you ever need to change it, you only need to change it in one place. You don't have to edit all these different modules. So for example, this green color heading is coming from our themes settings, but we could actually go ahead and let's make them a red color. And now they've all changed to red. We could also give them a background color of maybe, we'll do red here, but then we could change the text color to white. So let's just say these are red, and let's click save. Okay, so this module with that CSS class, the headings within inside it are forced uppercase and changed to red as per our CSS class that we just wrote and the CSS we just written. Okay, so let's just say this module we want to give a box shadow to. Global settings, CSS, and let's actually paste, let's do the dot module headings uppercase. So we're doing the whole module, not just the headings inside. And let's give that a box shadow. And you can see there's our box shadow. We could also change this to be a border. You know, a gray border. And you can see they've all got the gray border. So that's the power of using a CSS class. It allows you to change multiple modules at once just by changing a few lines of code. So another instance of when I like to use CSS classes is when I wanted to find a secondary heading. So I use secondary headings a lot. I think they're very powerful and they add a different layer of design. So you have, you know, your row, then you have your heading, and then the content of that section and maybe a button or some photos. But I like to put like a sort of, like it's a meta heading, a subheading to the area. So for example, it says, enjoy simple living with Zen life. And then you might have a little subheading here, like a smaller heading, and then the text. So to do that, I go add content, and I might add a text editor module, and I'll write, this is a subheading. And then I'll give this module the CSS class sub-heading. And then I'll save it. Now, I might want to have this repeat throughout my website because that's the design of the sections on my website where it has inside a row a heading, a subheading, and then the content. And I might want to have this a different color. So what I could do is I could go to my tools and global settings. And then under CSS, I do dot for the CSS class, sub-heading, which is the CSS class I just wrote onto the module. And then in brackets, I might do text transform uppercase, letter spacing. I might want to space it out quite a bit so it's nice and airy, doesn't stand out too much. I might do, I might align it to the center. And I might make it color, well, it's already a gray, but I'm just going to show you how you could change it. You could make it a darker color, a light gray, but then we could do like color. Let's just do black actually. So now it's the black. And let's save. And on this module, you know, we might want to remove some spacing just to pull it in a bit. So we have our main heading, our subtitle, and then the text. So again, it's just an extra element to work with. Now, sure, on this page, you know, you could get away with doing that maybe using a heading module, but the easiest way is what I'm showing you right now. And all we have to do now is we could come down to another section and we could add content and we could drag in our text editor module, another subheading, which just looks, you know, like that, quite plain. And we'll change the margins again just to be a bit smaller, top and bottom, to pull it up. And so instead of having to go in and change that heading module again, all we have to do is just write sub-heading, and now that has styled it like the other one. And the best part about CSS classes is, again, we only have to change them in one place. So instead of, let's just say we wanted to make these a red and not space them out at all, and maybe italicize them, instead of going in and editing every different module, we just go back to our tools and global settings, and in the CSS, there's our subheading CSS class. So we could change this to a red, and then we could go font style. We could italicize it. We could get rid of the text transform uppercase, and we might get rid of the letter spacing. So that's our subheading now. And again, just by making those small changes there, it's also updated up here. And the purpose of this video is to show you exactly what you've just seen. CSS classes allow you to not only style things that aren't available in a module settings. So sometimes, you know, you might edit a module and you have some select fields on that module. Select this heading field. You know, you can go in and change the text, the link, the style. There's obviously a lot more things you can do using CSS. So that's why you would use a CSS class. But it also allows you to change things in one place and update it throughout your website. Now, this video could go on to so many more instances of where this would be available and where you could use a CSS class to update things. But this video, I just wanted to get the point across where to put your CSS in an easy way and why you do it. And it's, again, to update things in one place and have them update throughout your website in multiple instances. You can build on this, and I'm sure you're going to use this in the future, and you're going to be happy that you watched this video and you sort of learned how to do it. So that's it for this lesson. Let's go on to the next one.